Let's talk about owning nothing and being happy.
Yes.
We have this story from Wired. It's actually from a month ago, but it gets into the core of right to repair. It says, a fight over the right to repair cars turns ugly. In the wake of a voter-approved law, Subaru and Kia dealers in Massachusetts have disabled systems that allow remote starts and send maintenance alerts. Now, I'm not super interested just in that because I want to talk about the bigger picture, but I think this shows an interesting, issue as it pertains to these big corporations and the rest of us who will eventually own nothing and be happy. I just like to point out, like your iPhone, what is it? You don't actually own the software on it. You have a license to it, and they could brick. Oh, you can keep the phone, but we'll brick it remotely because we own the software and you lose your license to it. This is a problem because we're losing ownership in things. We don't own movies anymore. We don't own the software on computers. And when it comes to you actually buying a phone, you can't even fix it without the company. They're denying your warranties. So Lewis, you're actually the right to repair guy, right? Yeah,
I try to be.
All right, so tell us what's going on with this, and what's up with what this means.
There was a 2012 law that was passed in Massachusetts where the automotive manufacturers would have to give independent mechanics access to what's needed to be able to repair your car. So diagnostic software and everything else, you'd have to make that available to them. And there was one loophole in it with regard to wireless. So if you are doing all of this stuff wirelessly, then you won't have to deal with that law. So they were trying to close that loophole before everything winds up being done wirelessly so that they don't get locked out. And there was a ballot initiative, and I believe it was 75% in favor, 25% opposed. And a group called Coalition...
To get rid of the wireless loophole or what?
Well, to pass this so that there wouldn't be any sort of loophole, so that you'd still be able to. And the idea that they're saying is that people will now, if you allow these independent mechanics to be able to use diagnostic software on the car, that they are, and also they were going to create some sort of open data protocol so that they would be able to access it, that they would then be able to follow you to a garage and sexually assault you.
Wait, what?
Well, there were a bunch of commercials done where there was a woman walking to her car, and it was a nice, very, very dark blue lighting. And she's getting into her car, and this scary music is playing. And right as before she opens her car window, she looks behind herself, and she's about to get smacked by some dude. And the implication is that dude is the car mechanic. These videos
the car mechanic was kidnapping women.
And then there was another one where this car mechanic is slowly walking up on the garage. This woman is slowly closing the garage door, and he opens it up, and then he walks into her home. And you hear the scary music playing in the background. And the implication is that's the dude that fixes your car. So this was paid for by Ford, Honda, Nissan, General Motors, and Toyota. They each contributed $4 to $5 million for those commercials. They were all scrubbed from the internet entirely because why would you want to be associated with this after you lose? But I archived them on my channel, and and that's what they were doing to try to get people to vote against it.
Is there a way to search for this real quick while you're talking?
It's on my channel. I think it's I forget the title of my own video, which is really
You'll remember.
It's somewhere on my channel. But if you look for if you just look for the ballot initiative, what do you search for? I don't know. Right to repair sexual assault probably is what.
How long ago was it?
This was in August of 2020.
Okay, so not too long ago.
Yeah, this was August 2020 that I made that video. And I put the video there, and you can't find it anymore. And their website is completely scrubbed. They were trying to scare your average voter into believing that if independents are able to work on your car, that they'll be able to assault you in a parking lot and break into your home.
Called Lobbyists Imply Right to Repair Helps Domestic Abusers Push Racism.
Is that
yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, and they also said it was racist.
Lobbyists Imply Right to Repair. If you search that, you'll
They also said it was racist, which is something we got accused of in this very state.
The right to repair was racist?
Yeah, I got accused of that literally 2 weeks ago. It's in this video, so if you fast forward to a minute, there you go. There you go.
Wow, let's play this. Let's play this. All right.
Personal data stored in your vehicle. Domestic violence advocates say a sexual predator could use the data to stalk their victims. Pinpoint exactly where you are, whether you are alone. Even take control of your vehicle. Vote no.
Same thing with OnStar.
She should be looking behind herself the whole time she's walking through that place alone, firstly.
Yeah, and
you'd hear footsteps.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so they are looking to overturn that ballot initiative, and they've been in court for this entire time. And the judge is actually starting to get kind of aggravated with their arguments and what they were saying, because they said it's impossible for us to comply with this. Yet then Kia and Subaru complied by simply disabling their wireless systems altogether, it's a discussion as to whether that's complying with it or evading it, but it aggravated the judge. So the judge is likely there's a good chance that this winds up getting held up. And I mean, if you buy a car, you should be able to fix it. You should be able to get access to the diagnostic tools. There shouldn't be something where it's like dealing with Apple, where if you want to be able to diagnose it, you have to wait for somebody to get a stolen schematic off of a truck in China somewhere so that you could fix the $40,000 car that you own.
I just want to point out the absurdity of them trying to play the racism angle, where it's just like, they're probably sitting in a room like, how can we get people to not be okay with this? Ooh, call them racist.
That actually worked. So in March
What, really?
in March of 2020, there was a right to repair bill hearing in Maryland, and there was one person who said, this bill talks about making source code available, which it doesn't. It doesn't mention source code once. That's never in the bill. And I said, and he said that, well, by the way, viruses don't just appear out of nowhere. They appear because people have access to the source code. You could immediately hear every single person who was a Linux developer or systems administrator who knows that over 60% of the internet is run on Linux, which is open source, like just banging their head against the wall listening to this. So I did a video saying, with the testimony, because I went there to record it, and I also testified in this hearing to explain why this was wrong. And I listened to that video. I've listened to that video like 100 times since I did it. I don't hear anything racist in it. I try to channel my own like Ibram X. Kendi or Robin DiAngelo to try to figure out what I could have said or done that was wrong, and I don't see it. Even my comments, I read through it. It had 300 comments at the time. It was this is who's stopping right to repair in Maryland from March of 2020, and there's nothing racist in it. There are a lot of comments saying this politician is a moron. Wow, I can't believe this guy got elected. What an idiot. Which is normal political discourse in our country, regardless of race. But he had said so when we hired a lobbyist in that state, they said that was a racist video, and that's why they weren't going to consider right to repair. So then the lobbyist said, well, listen, my client is willing to personally come down here on a trip, come to your office and apologize and discuss anything with you. He's like, no, don't worry about it. Water under the bridge. Then 2 weeks ago, they say, oh, yeah, there was a very racist video that was done, and I'm not going to consider this bill. And it's like, really? And I literally read through every single comment, every single one of the 300 comments, because you'll see there are comment sections on YouTube where they'll say, look at that set of runners where the runner means jogger and jogger means N-word for somebody that doesn't actually want to say it. None of it. It was clean as can be. It was just idiot, dumbass, whatever.
They're lying, bro.
But the thing is, it worked.
Right.
Because that bill is gone now.
But this is what I was talking to you about, middle ground people. You think average middle ground people would, if you talk to them and explain to them what happened, they'd be on your side?
I don't know a single left-wing person that watched that video of what he was claiming that even agreed with him. Even people that I know that are very left-wing, it was like, that's full of it.
What was the actual claim?
So who's the politician who's like not getting on board?
C.T. Wilson.
He's a Democrat or a Republican?
He is.
All right, well.
The thing is, right to repair has been screwed over by Republicans, Democrats, and Libertarians in almost every single state.
Libertarians?
Yes. Oh, so in Nebraska.
That's surprising.
No, in Nebraska.
Republican, I get. Democrat, I get.
In Nebraska in 2017, there was a Senator Bob Christ who agreed to meet with all of us the day of the hearing, and then he called off the hearing, and then he wasn't interested in it. Kim Roback, who was an AT&T lobbyist, donated $3,000. I thought that's nothing. Maybe the cost of living is different in Nebraska, and that's all it takes. But yeah, he was going to meet with us. He called it off last minute. You go to followthemoney.org, and that day you see Kim Roback, the AT&T, who used to be lieutenant governor, who was an AT&T lobbyist, who testified against the bill, gave him money. Ernie Chambers, this is interesting. Ernie Chambers, who is a very left-leaning Democrat, and if you go to followthemoney.org, actually there's no company giving him money. He is purely fundraised by his neighbors and everybody going door to door knocking and people giving him $1. He said, and I quote, "To consider this bill, strike all contents from the bill and write in the following: better luck next year." And then he started laughing at us.
What?
Then he started laughing at us. Laura Epps, who was a libertarian, sat next to him, also laughed. By the way, she was voted out of office by Tom Brandt. No, she was beat out of office by Tom Brandt, who is a Republican, who is a farmer, who won an election based on right to repair. In Washington State, the Democrats voted for it. Every single person who voted against right to repair, who didn't want it to move forward, was a Republican in Washington State. The interesting thing is in Nebraska, this time around, it was actually urban Democrats that voted for right to repair, and rural Republicans that were endorsed by the Nebraska Farm Bureau that voted against it. And a part of me wonders, is this just them trolling? Are they just trying to say, are they trying to actually get the rural vote and say, listen, you guys see us all as city slickers. They're voting against you being able to fix your own tractor. We don't even know what a tractor is, and we're voting for it. So why don't you consider voting? But in every state, it's been very eclectic. Who supports it and who denies it? It's a total coin toss.
I'm willing to bet it has a lot to do with, for farmers. You've got a lot of these big companies. It's not so much the farmer as the politician. And they say, we're going to run ads against you and make you look as bad as possible to every one of your constituents. The amount of money we will dump into destroying you will never compete with. And they say, okay, I'm not going to bother.
That's another thing that's been very interesting, is figuring out who is for this and who is against this. So when I did the fundraiser last year, I wanted to do the ballot initiative in the state of Massachusetts. That was my goal. to try and get it passed by people and just bypass this entire disgusting process altogether. I said if I raise 3 to 6 million, I'll do it. If I don't, I'll just do traditional lobbying to try to get something passed in a state. So there was a state where we introduced a bill that does not exclude farm equipment. And there was someone who was asking to be excluded from farm equipment, and it was a farm bureau. Now this is so I had to have a conversation. So I get an email from that's from my lobbyist. I would have not shared, but at this point I don't care because I got called racist by senators in the state, and the bill got killed anyway. He said you probably shouldn't share this because if you share stuff like this, do you want to get a bill passed or do you just want to stir up stuff? But it's like, well, I didn't get a bill passed doing it your way anyway. So I see an email saying it's still a tough issue to address. Our problem isn't a non-ability to repair our own equipment, but more a lack of service providers in key times of the year. Key part: most farmers don't have or care to have the knowledge or the equipment to repair their own equipment. So it's a service provider issue. Tell that to a farmer. Tell that to a farmer that most farmers don't have the knowledge or the ability to repair their own stuff.
Well, farmers are all dumb, so.
No, but this is somebody that represents farmers that is saying this. This is somebody from a farm bureau. So I say, listen, I can't let this go. I know I'm supposed to let this go. I can't let this go. I give the guy a call. And it's like, you emailed my lobbyist who I hired. I know that you know that he was going to send this to me. I grew up in Brooklyn. I've never been on a farm in my life. So if I show up to a state and I start advocating for right to repair, and then we remove agriculture from the bill, that's going to look like this New York City city slick or whatever is trying to screw over farmers. Do you understand how that looks for me? Now, you're the one who's asking to be removed from the bill, and you're saying if you're not removed from the bill, that you're probably going to ask to be removed, and that's going to be awkward. So we should ask to be removed. So I need you to understand how bad this would look for me if I was to remove it. Can you explain why you want to be removed from this bill? And can you explain how I can explain in a PR-friendly way why it is you're asking to be removed when you're saying that you support farmers? And can you please explain this line that you told me, most farmers don't have or care to have the knowledge of the equipment to repair their own equipment? And the answer that I got was, in my opinion, garbage. So this
is politics, man. You look, if you play it honest and honorable, you'll get stampeded over and crushed by the people who are willing to lie, cheat, or steal.
I got stampeded. I absolutely got stampeded. And the thing is, the idea, you can't share this. If you share that, then you'll look bad. I didn't share. I
love sharing.
I did exactly what I was supposed to do. And
sharing
then
is caring.
And then, did anything win? No. It wasn't going to win anyway, but
I like sharing the details. I like letting people know.
I want people to know exactly who screwed them.
Absolutely.
And I'm doing that at every single chance that I get in every single state. Like with Nebraska, I pointed out, by the way, here are all the people that are endorsed by the Farm Bureau. Here are all the people that voted against it. Do you see that all the people that voted against it are endorsed by the Farm Bureau?
So what you're proposing is like simple, that people who say buy a tractor are allowed to fix their own tractor.
I'm saying that make available the diagnostics, the schematics, and the tools at a fair and reasonable price that you make available to your own dealers or technicians. So if you sell the software package to a dealer for $5,000, let them buy it for $5,000. If you sell this schematic for $500 or this manual for $500, sell it to the independent for $500. Right now, I rely for my business on stuff that fell off the back of a truck. It's all like the process that I go through to get access to screens and chips. My customers think that I just go to Mouser.com and I just buy everything that I want. They have no idea the Nicolas Cage, Lord of War, supply chain, ridiculous nonsense that happens in the background so that I could get them a computer screen.
But there's, this plays into phones and stuff as well, right? Like
it goes, and it's with almost everything. And one of the things that drives me nuts is when people say just don't buy Apple and it'll go away. I talk about Apple products because that's what I fix. But show me a smartphone where you can get the schematic from the company. Even Fairphone, who says they support right to repair, will not give you a schematic for any amount of money.
What about Freedom Phone?
Freedom Phone, yeah.
Freedom
I don't
Phone?
know if they have the
I think the only thing that would give
You're
you,
not gonna get it because they buy it third party.
I haven't double checked if this is the case, but I think PinePhone will. But if you use it, they're a great company. It's a bit far from the experience that you'll get if you buy, a S10e or an iPhone 10 or anything like that. They're getting there, but there's no. If you want to have access to things like this, you really have to give up the ability to live in a modern society. You can't get a schematic to your monitor. You can't buy chips to a lot of the things that you want to. And
is the challenge though like copyright?
A lot of it,
IP.
Yeah, what they'll say is that it is an intellectual property issue. But here's the actual issue I think it is. I don't think it's an issue of if we release the schematic, somebody else will reproduce our product. Because if you go to Venafix.com or Notebook Squad or any of these places, you could spend $20 and get access to all the schematics you want.
Well, not just that. I'm pretty sure every major phone company buys every brand new phone and just opens it and goes, oh,
I think here's the issue. They're afraid if the schematics get out that it won't be that users or other companies will copy their technology, but rather it'll show up that they were already copying everybody to begin with. I think that's a part of it. So, for instance, let's say you pay a company, and this is my speculation based on what I've heard from people in the industry that I don't want to give their name out because they were probably doing this, but let's say you ask a company in China, we want a laptop motherboard with these specifications and this chipset and this blah blah modem and blah blah blah. That company that's actually doing everything in Taiwan or Korea or China, are they going to start from scratch to make it just for you, or are they going to say, well, Dell or Lenovo contracted us to make this, Control C, Control V, here you go. So there's a lot of technology out there where it probably is a direct copy and paste of somebody else's thing, and
especially in China.
Yeah, because they're doing it because they don't care. But here, our laws say that we care. So if you keep the schematic and everything private, you can't really see that. Versus if you make it public, then maybe it's a little bit more easy to see that. Wait, you copied my Bluetooth circuit, you copied this circuit, or something like that. That's my best case. But you used to be, if you bought a radio or you bought a television, you bought any of this different stuff, you would open it. And there'd be a schematic on the back of it that shows everything's put together, and you could buy manuals to it. I mean, even for for computers back in the day, they used to come with schematics and manuals that show you how to fix everything. And the argument that gets used now is security and safety, that we would be less secure and less safe. But were people like blowing themselves up fixing their toasters 50 years ago? No. We had a much more freedom-oriented mindset back then.
Didn't you say that OnStar? I felt like I talked over you. We were talking about, but OnStar can track where people are in their cars, and like you were saying with this propaganda commercial that if a woman's walking to her car in the middle of the night, people from OnStar know that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna I'm not gonna spend $5,000 for all these different tools. If I want to abuse my wife, I'm not gonna do all of this. I'm probably just gonna toss an AirTag under the mattress or something.
Yeah.
Not that I do that.
Not only that. I mean, a lot of these there's 1,000,001 ways to track vehicles.
There is so many ways to track people that are easier than hacking into the open data system in your cars. Get on stuff for your car. That's one of the most
complicated ways to track somebody.
No, it's ridiculous. And again, this is designed to scare you. And the thing that a lot of people don't get is a lot of people will say Tesla is anti-repair in many ways. True. However, who funded this? Ford, General Motors, Toyota, Nissan, and Honda. And the reason that all of this stuff was scrubbed from the internet right after they lost is because they don't want to have that anti-repair reputation. They don't want to be known as the company that associated being sexually assaulted with having your car repaired. But they should be, because they paid for this.
Yeah, Tesla open sourced all their patents. I don't know, all our patent are belong to you. Tesla.com from 2019. Yeah, Elon's a weird guy. He's a funny dude. Also, if you guys
does a lot of good stuff, but he's a
very strange man. I love him.
Yeah.
OpenSourceEcology.org. Have you guys ever seen this? It's I think it's pronounced Marcin Jakubowski is his name, but he's basically created all this farm equipment, and he's open sourced all the patents of how to build them, repair them. But you can build them and do them yourself. Very cool.
You know what's funny is like we often make fun of the Great Reset. You will own nothing and you will be happy. You've heard that, right?
I have.
Yeah. What if the you will own nothing is because everything's like open source and available for you to create your own? You know what I mean?
Molecular printing.
Like, well, let's think about that. I guess in that reality, you would own stuff. You'd own what you made.
I don't think that was meant as nefarious as they said it when they actually said it. I think the part of it was you used to have a record collection. Now you're going to be happy with just, you search for a song, like you just type it in and it automatically starts playing for you, that type of thing.
But that's bad.
But that coincided.
It's really bad.
The thing is that statement and that trend of you just having access to everything immediately at your fingertips, whether it's an Uber for a car or music, just so happens to coincide with a second separate trend where every single company is doing everything they can to make things unrepairable because there's more money to be made and you're buying a new one.
It is nefarious to say you used to have a record collection, now you have it on your phone. Because they can say, you're a naughty boy, so we've banned you from music forever. You used to have a record collection, they could come out and be like, you're a jerk and nobody likes you, so you can't come to the record store anymore. And they'd be like, well, I got a big old pile of records right here, at least I got those. Now, Spotify will just be like, we're going to ban you. Like, I'll tell you this, man, Lee Camp, right? You ever hear of Lee Camp?
No.
He's like a lefty guy, he worked for RT. He had a podcast, a personal podcast. It wasn't through RT, and it got deleted from Spotify because he worked for RT.
That's Redacted Tonight?
Redacted Tonight was deleted off of YouTube. He had another show on Spotify that got purged.
Oh, a different show.
For working for a Russian outlet or whatever. And but the point is that's a different kind of suspension. You could be booted off, iTunes, and then you have no music on iTunes, and you say, okay, maybe Spotify. But if they all coordinate like they did with Alex Jones, it is a really, really bad thing for them to be like, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Yeah, you're happy until like in that, what was it, Black Mirror, where they blocked someone in real life.
Yeah.
And they just saw a silhouette walking around.
it's like
I think that what they meant with that statement is that you're going to use more services than own things. I would prefer to own things than have services myself. That's my preference. But I think that's a separate thing than what's happening now, which is everything that you buy winds up becoming disposable. But I'm glad that statement exists, and that so many people are aggravated at that statement, because it's going to cause people to be more sensitive to when you buy something and there's a $5 chip in your $3,000 MacBook that dies, and they tell the company that makes it not to sell it to anybody. Do you actually own what you buy if you cannot buy any of the components necessary to repair it because the company goes out of their way to stop you from doing so? Like if I go to Intersil and I try to buy a chip that I could have bought 10 years ago, I'm not allowed to. They'll say we can only sell to people who are on this approved vendor list.
Yeah.
Renaissance Electronics will say we can only sell on this approved vendor list. Same with Texas Instruments. If that's the case, do you actually own anything?
I think it's...
Or are you leasing it? Are you leasing that tablet until it dies, or do you own it?
Technically, you
I own
own an unrepairable piece of machinery, I guess.
Yeah.
Because the life cycles of a lot of this. I mean, a lot of these devices will die within a year or two.
That's intentional. This planned obsolescence thing. Are they doing this on purpose?
I think some of it is just the way people use things now, but also the fact that, I mean, if you plug a charger into a MacBook and there's something weird with your electrical circuitry in your house or something, it'll just blow a CD3217 chip and it'll be dead. And you didn't do anything wrong. You don't even have to use a knockoff charger for it to happen. This is like a very, very common repair. We get it every single day.
Really?
Yeah. And there's something that I have to do to get that chip that I can't say on stream. But it's like
Wow.
it's stupid.
That's nefarious.
No,
Not
it's
what
like
you're doing, but that's nefarious that you wouldn't be able to talk about it openly. I
No,
mean,
but-
if it's a proprietary fix, you mean that you do?
No, it's not even a proprietary fix. I can't say how we get access to some of these things.
Legally?
It's not legal.
That's incredible.
But
That's
it's
so
really
messed up.
like it's just dumb that things have to be that way.
Wow.
And the thing is, people will say, well, you're only advocating for right to repair because it helps your business. It's like, no, it's the opposite. When you have 1 million YouTube subscribers, you can say, oh man, if only I had this chip, I could do this repair, and I will get a box with no return address or whatever, with like a spool of chips, and say thank you for the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
The
You could
people
say,
that
won't
started,
someone rid me of this priest, and the priest is just gone.
yeah, but the people who started where I did 10 years ago, they can't do that. They're like where I started 10 years ago, they can't do that. They don't have the ability to say something like that and just have some contact reach out to them that allows them to get access to all the things that I can.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing this for the people that started where I did because I want them to have a path to get where I am now. Like I started doing this when I had $200 in my bank account, $1,000 in credit card debt, and I just dropped out of college, and I was able to start a store and get 12 employees, have a decent quality of life, and I want everybody else to be able to do that. But that bridge that I crossed is slowly burning away behind me.
I
Yeah.
agree, man, completely.
Yeah.
I want to believe that if you just work hard and you dedicate yourself, but I mean, looking at YouTube, they're pulling up the ladder behind us. Everybody, they're making it harder and harder for people to have. People of merit aren't going to be able to make it in. I think kind of just to do a quick shift before we go to super chats. When it comes to pulling up the ladder behind it, as far as it goes with media, I think when YouTube started, when the internet was prominent, meritocracy was the law of the land. If you made good stuff that people wanted to see, you would do well. And meritocracy doesn't mean good content. People started posting boobies, all over YouTube, and it worked really well for their channels and made them huge. YouTube eventually started getting rid of this and saying, nah, we should just choose who wins and who loses. That way we have control of the situation. So the ladder's been pulled up behind everybody. That's why I recommend people now, if you're going to start a channel, start it on Rumble.
Or Minds.
Or Minds.
Some new network.
Yeah, you've got a real chance at meritocracy on a new platform that you want on YouTube.
Are people actually using them though? That's the biggest problem with new platforms.
Yeah, they are.
Like a bunch of people would suggest that I use library, and I do, but when I actually opened up a library channel, nobody watches it.
But Rumble, if Dan Bongino got more views and has more subscribers on Rumble than he did on YouTube.
That's interesting.
And it's one of the reasons he's probably an investor in it, because he was driving a lot of that growth for sure. But he's got a nationally syndicated radio show and podcast that helped him build that up.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, for you right now, you got 1.7 million subscribers or whatever. If you were to jump over to Rumble or Minds, you wouldn't have as big of a platform. But if someone right now has nothing, has no followers whatsoever, I'd say Rumble.
In addition
Or Minds.
what you're saying about the right to repair and access to open source machinery, schematics and things, how do you feel about software code? Like with proprietary networks, for instance, Google, YouTube, something like that.
I've never thought of the idea of mandating that everything be open source. I like open source software. I like when people make it available. But if you're going to make a device that let's give an example. So there was a microwave recently that I forget made by Electrolux, and because it was given a software update that didn't work, that microwave now thinks that it's a steam oven. and it doesn't turn on because it thinks it's a steam oven. Now, why you have a microwave that connects to Wi-Fi is beyond me. Why anybody would like they perfected the microwave over everything that you could have in a microwave like 40 years ago, and they put a clock in a microwave. I think that was the last update that you needed.
Yeah.
But if something happens like that, even if you don't have access to the source code, should you be able to have access to the ROM? Because what you need a service technician to come out to your home to fix that. Why can't you fix it yourself? Because you don't have access to the software. So should that stuff be made available for devices that require it? That's an important question.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.